Okay, so we've taken the section through here, projecting where in the line of the door, but now that I'm going to do a section that encompasses the other side of the room, I might move that section line up to a location that will be a little bit simpler to draw, essentially. And I'll extend that now to the other side, so we know it's going all the way through. And we know that there are fire doors here that you really should show in your plan. So all of those little things I'm not going to show you. You can do that, I'm sure, without me showing you how to do that. So what have you got there to think about in the corridor? You probably don't need to show it all perfectly, but you should. It's going to show up in your plans, some of those things. So you've got the fire door, and then what have you got next to that? The fire hydrant, yep, that little closet. And then you maybe could even show the doors into the bathrooms on the other side. You don't need to draw all of the bathrooms, but to show it correctly, that should be all in there. But I'm going to take the section from north of those so that I don't need to include them in my section. And so I can begin just by copying these lines. I could project up, but it's a little trick you can use to save a bit of time. Copy, and I'm just going to snap to the bottom of that line and snap it to the top of my, well, what do you think it sits on? Top of the carpet or the top of the slab? Exactly, the slab. And then the carpet would stop, but we've got floor lining on the inside of the corridor as well, so I'm going to trim this and use that same line for my flooring in the corridor. So how much easier is that? That's the bottom of that detail done, except for the beam. Right, so like I said, it's a little bit easier than what you've just been doing. Okay, so now we've got the ceiling here. We've got to maybe finish off the bulkhead on the left-hand side as well. I'll come back to that. So you've got the beam then. So we'll get that done before the bulkhead. And so did John give you any measurements for that? For the chamfering? Or when you were counting the bricks, did you get any measurement at all? No, we can just do it roughly and then you can always adjust this. So I'm going to assume that the beam, well, you did do the beam depth, I think, didn't you? I thought you measured that using counting bricks. No? I thought you worked out the height above the door. I can't even remember what it was. You said it was 5 bricks.
It was 5.
Yeah. Okay. So 5 times 86, 430, plus, don't even need to, plus 2100, so 2530. Might give us an idea if we're on the right track with the beam height, considering we can't really see it in here. So offsetting that slab line and pretty close. That's what I've worked out using other methods to find the bottom of the beam on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to say is that is probably the height of the beam. And so coming across from there, actually I'm going to say probably out. So let's bring it across from here. So did you notice where it was chamfering or tapering? Okay, so we'll have a bit of a think about this. So what did you do in your detail? What did John say you were? So he's got it going either side, does he? Right. Yeah, might want to check that because maybe the ceiling is quite low in there. Yeah, so that could be right. So did he give you a width for the bottom of the beam? Oh, yeah, right, okay, so 360, okay.
Yeah, 360.
Yep, okay, so that's good, okay. So we've got the inside face of the wall here. We know if we offset 360 from that line to the right will give us the column width. And so then we can go to the right layer straight away because I've got it there. And then we don't really know the angle, so I'm just going to, by eye, draw from the intersection there with polar turned on and just try and get something that looks about right. So 65, maybe 70, 65, maybe. Okay, so the rest I'll get by using fillet to join these lines together. And then I can select the chamfer line that I've drawn and use mirror, snapping to the midpoint of that line I've drawn for the base of the beam, and then take it straight up vertically to the other side. Okay, so it'll be something like that. We don't know the angle, but that might be close, so we can always modify it if necessary. I'm going to use trim, cut that line. Okay, so now I can go about putting in the bulkhead. And so for that, I do have a measurement 310. Okay, so from the wall, I can offset 310 to the inside to get the bulkhead, and then using fillet again, join those lines together. So before I go too far there, I should really make a layer for my ceiling. And put these lines all onto that layer. So what are you trying to measure? The height of the bulkhead? I've got that. I've got that. I gave it to you. I'll give it to you again if you want. Yep. Yeah, don't get up onto your chair. We've got OH&S, unfortunately, to worry about. So, okay, so I'm going to trim these back. If you miss those measurements, I'll give them to you again. So from the floor to the bulkhead is 2540, and then floor to ceiling is 2910. The difference between those is the height of your bulkhead. Okay. So, like I said, see how much easier that section is? That's it. There's still a little bit of finishing off, but that's the bulk of it. Yep. So I'm going to copy this beam down. It would be below as well. We probably don't need to do all of the ceiling structure there on the level below, but at least put the beam in to show what's supporting your wall. And then, what do you think's happening in the corridor? Why do you think you can't see the beam, the bulkhead framed around the beam the way we can inside this room? What do you think they might have done to make it simpler in the corridor? Exactly, plasterboard ceiling, and maybe it's flat. Right, so instead of putting in a bulkhead so they can have a raised ceiling, which is nice in these big spaces, they've just done it lower, straight across. So for interiors, that's something you need to know. That's right, yeah, so often, the bulkhead is I think a design feature that you can incorporate as part of your interior design, but if you don't want to see things in spaces like that, it's often easier just to flatten it and cover up everything. So we've got another bulkhead over here, and it may in fact chamfer on the inside, who knows, but we can leave it straight, I think, just for simplicity's sake. So using the two lines I've drawn from my bulkhead, show you a really good trick here. Midpoint again, using mirror. The midpoint on my carpet, remember the carpet should sit inside my two walls, so I can use that to mirror my bulkhead back over to the left-hand side. And there we are. Now, to hatch that, you'll need to finish off the, or to cap off these lines. So you should really draw a cut line there. And maybe I will show you a really quick way of drawing a cut line. You probably all have an idea, but it doesn't hurt just to see some shortcuts. So if you draw a line at the angle you want for your cut line, and then use mirror, and then mirror again. Oops, sorry, that was... Okay, so again, using mirror to get a copy of that line, and then mirror to get a copy of both of those lines now, and then move and trim. It's a quick way of doing a cut line. And so now I can trim all of these lines back, which means that I should be able to hatch them without too much difficulty. So I'm going to get a new layer for my floor hatch. So you can see that I just selected the layer that had the most similar settings to what I want, which just means it'll copy all those settings to my new layer. For cut, I don't mind having moderately heavy lines for cut hatch patterns. So using the hatch tool now, you've got the concrete hatch pattern. If they don't have the regular concrete, you can use AR concrete. And then you've got to check the size. So working at the scale of your hatch patterns often just takes a bit of trial and error. 1 may be okay, but there maybe it's a little bit dense, so you could try just doubling that. 2 here, that's probably pretty good. And then for the brickwork, I've already done a hatch there, so I can go to hatch and then match properties and select that hatch. Oops. And then pick points. Should work pretty well there. Done. So anyhow, you need to look at using your layouts and viewports to get the section and the details set up from that one drawing. But